and welcome to day 31 of our RV-10 build. On this day we continued work on the horizontal stabilizer. This was another really long day of building. We actually spent over 8 hours in the garage in total working today, so there's quite a bit to go over and share with y'all and hopefully help out with maybe a tip or two here or there on what we came across. Before I get going though, I want to give a really big thank you to all of you. I just recently passed 1,000 subscribers and I can't believe it. It's really exciting. So thanks to all of you out there who subscribed. I really appreciate it and I'm so glad that you enjoy the videos. So let's get back to the build. The first step that we had to do today was to now rivet the nose ribs into place on the skins. And the first thing that we found was a little bit helpful is instead of trying to keep both of them up there in the cradles on the table at the same time, we took one of them down and set it off to the side and just had a single skin up there to work with, just to have a little bit more space and not feel quite as cramped and tight up there. And that seemed to work out really nicely. The other thing is having that setup there that I mentioned in the last video with the scaffolding really came in handy. Tyler's able to sit there and use the rivet gun. He liked having all of the rivets right there at eye level because of the height we had the scaffolding set at. And then I could very easily look over and reach over the top inside and easily line up the bucking bar and check on the rivets to make sure that they were getting set okay. So it really worked out nicely having this setup that we did with the scaffolding for getting all the riveting done. One thing I did notice when we were doing this that we came across is when you're riveting those holes there on the nose ribs to the skin, something as you're getting up to that last one, the aftmost rivet on both the top and bottom part of both skins, is that there's nothing above it holding the skin there really tight and in place. So there's no, the inspar ribs aren't above there trying to hold the skin in the proper orientation. As you can see here, it kind of wants to flare out. And so to try and make sure that you get a really good tight fit between the skin and those nose ribs, we just kind of pushed a little bit on the skin from the outside, trying to help press it up against that nose rib when we got to, if you're looking at it this way, the top rivet. So the top rivet on both sides of the skins. When we got to both of those where there's no longer anything above it trying to help hold and pinch that skin together, we just kind of pressed a little bit on the skin to help keep the skin flush to the flange of the nose rib, so you got a really good rivet there. It was really nice having the soft cradle because I don't know if you've noticed, it's nice to be able to tilt it back and forth. If I'm trying to see something and I can't quite get a good view, I can move the whole skin back and forth so I can see what I'm looking at. Tyler, if he needs a better angle to use the rivet gun, same thing, we can pivot it back and forth. It's really nice for the maneuverability and getting sometimes a little bit better angles or access perhaps, but you know, it does require trying to kind of hold it steady a little bit more than I think you would in the hard cradle while you're riveting it. Again, there's pluses and minuses with whichever cradle that you use, but we really liked being able to kind of move it around and get a really good access inside. So we've been getting these kind of weird scuff marks on the skin using either of our two mushroom sets with the rivet gun, and Tyler went and looked it up to see if there was any input from others about what to do, and apparently it's a pretty common problem, and the suggestion for that we tried was to put some painter's tape on the mushroom set. It will wear off after a while of using it. It won't just stay on there for the entire horizontal stabilizer, but it did make a noticeable difference. And so we enjoyed doing that, having a little bit of painter's tape there on the end of the mushroom set when riveting. I'll put a link below to one of the Vance Air Force threads where Tyler found about using the tape there on the mushroom set to try and help out with the scuffing. When you go to put the front spar assembly in, I would make sure to remove the clecos that are holding the inboard inspar ribs, those two to the spar, because if you have the clecos in there, that's the one area where the inspar ribs and the nose ribs connect to the spar through the same holes, and all of the other ribs and nose ribs, they don't connect through any of the same holes. So it doesn't matter that you've got clecos in all of the rest of the inspar ribs, but it does matter on those two inboard ones. It won't sit down if you've got the little bit of the cleco sticking out of the bottom. So we just took it out, and then once we got the whole assembly in place, just put the clecos back in to cleco those two inboard inspar ribs back into place against the spar web. Once you get that front spar assembly in there, you're going to end up using pop rivets to install the inspar ribs to the spar web of the front spar. And I've mentioned in another video about how we got the pneumatic pop rivet gun. It's worked out really well for us. It was a little tricky because I don't know if you can see here in the video, but the intake for the compressed air on our little pneumatic rivet gun, it sticks out to the side. So it doesn't stick down, it doesn't stick out the back, it sticks off to the side. And so that had the hose then sticking off to the side. And because of that, it made it a little bit tricky kind of trying to squeeze it in there between those two skins. It did work out, but if that's something that you have on yours, maybe look for some sort of a little joint that you might be able to put there. I went and looked at Home Depot and I didn't see one when I was there, but I'm sure you might be able to find one online where it just would put that little 90-degree bend where now the hose just kind of wouldn't be in the way there for the pneumatic pop rivet gun. The hands down absolute trickiest part of today was when it comes time to rivet the flange of the inboard inspar ribs to the spar web and to the flange of the inboard nose ribs. It's that part there right in the middle. When you're looking at it, it gets narrower between the two halves of the horizontal stabilizer as it moves from forward to aft. And so you've got this tight little wedge, and you now already have the stringer assemblies, and the stringer web are already riveted together because that was a previous step which we'd done the day before. And so you've got to now rivet these ribs together, and you don't really have a lot of space. It was kind of nice having, again, the soft cradle to be able to move it around back and forth while I was trying to finagle how I was going to do this and get a little bit better access and a better view, but it's a really tight spot there that you're trying to work in. I was trying to see if we could use our new longeron yoke that we'd bought at Oshkosh the month prior, but I was only able to set one rivet, the middle rivet on both sides, using the pneumatic squeezer. The rest, it did not work. With that angle there on those ribs, it didn't work. So what we ended up having to do is use a double offset rivet set. And I think this is the first time that we've used these. And so to try and give you an idea of what I'm talking about here, I've done a little snippet to demonstrate like what it is I'm talking about and try and give you an idea of what they are, how they help, and how we used it to get the rivet set in there. Because I know from this angle you just can't see it really well. I was trying to find the best angle to give the best vantage point of what exactly we were working on there in the horizontal stabilizer. I think it worked out well for the rest of the video, but for this part here, you just really can't see it. So take a look here at this quick little snippet trying to explain how we use the double offset rivet set to get those rivets in there. So these are both examples of double offset rivet sets. This one is for 1/8" universal rivets, and this is a long back rivet set. And when it's talking about the double offset, what that's referring to is how it jogs off to the one side and then it jogs back again, and it's now in the same orientation it originally was back here. And so it's to try and help you work around tight corners where you wouldn't otherwise be able to get there with, say, a straight rivet set. One thing that's interesting to notice though with these double offset rivet sets is that there is no fixed orientation. So as you can see here, this back rivet set is just moving around freely. There's nothing holding it in place here in the gun. So for example, while using this now with the top skins for the wings, I have just been holding this. It doesn't hurt, it's not painful. You just hold it while you're using the rivet gun to help keep it steady and keep it from flailing around all over the place and damaging the rivet or the skins. But I have seen on some of the band's forums where they talk about that you could use apparently either medical tape or duct tape to try to secure the rivet set here where the spring attaches to it, and try and do it that way to help it maintain its orientation. I haven't done that, but it's one of the ways that I've seen that you could do it if you don't want to be holding it. And again, this is the one here that we've been using in the video for the horizontal stabilizer. And so hopefully that little demonstration gives you a better idea and understanding of how it is that we've been using double offset rivet sets with the build. So there's my quick and simple explanation, but it still was pretty tricky to get those rivets in there.
It's almost gonna be an easy thing from here out.
Everything's gonna be easy from here on out, yeah. If only that were true, right? So another small thing is I did find that it was easier to work with the top side of the horizontal stabilizer facing me, because that got the two front spar attachment brackets that are attached to the bottom side of the front spar. It got those out of the way. So instead of having to try and fight around those two big spar attachment brackets that we made, just having it where the top side of the horizontal stabilizer was facing me made it a lot easier not having to worry about working around those. Using that double offset rivet set there in that tight spot, it still was not anything I would call easy. I think that it probably was one of the toughest bits for that day, and that we spent quite a bit of time trying to figure out how to get it just right, trying to get the pressure set right, trying to make sure that the rivet set didn't go all over the place and just smash up the rivets. Again, working in a really tight little spot there. So it took us, I think, about an hour to get those 8 rivets set. So just let that sink in a little bit. I don't know if this was just amateur hour on our part, where again, this I think was the first time we used these and just getting familiar with it. But if you are getting to this part and it's your first time too, I would make sure to just allot some time. Don't think it's going to be just a little, 5 minutes, wham, bam, and you're done. It took us a little while to just get comfortable with it. And it worked out. Again, we got the rivet set just fine. But it was just a little bit tricky trying to figure it out your first time. Fortunately, the whole day wasn't so stressful and tense. We did manage to have some fun throughout the whole day of building the horizontal stabilizer. The instructions do say that you can leave this step till the end if you are having trouble, but we didn't. We just kind of, kept going with it, and we're determined to just finish it. So it says that what you can do is you can leave it till the end, where then you can now lay the horizontal stabilizer flat on the table, and perhaps that gives you a little bit better access to make it a little bit easier. That probably would really have helped, but we were just kind of, I think, being a little stubborn and just wanted to try and make it work and get it done. But you can then put it off till the end if you're having too much trouble. It's not going to prevent you from finishing the rest of what you have to do. The only thing that might make it a little trickier, I guess, is that now you'll have those rivets set on the flanges on either side of both of the inboard inspar ribs. And so I don't know if having those shop heads back there, if that will get in your way or not. But it says in the instructions you can do it later, so feel free to put it off till later if you're having a hard time. So something that was really helpful, because now that you've got everything in there and you've got all those inspar ribs riveted to the spar web, you now are going to start riveting the flanges of the spar to the skins. And something that was very helpful that it doesn't actually say in the instructions is that it tells you to cleco everything together. It tells you to go ahead and cleco that whole front spar assembly to the skins. We took that to mean the whole assembly. But if you've done the airfoil kit from Vans, there's a section in there where it specifically talks about don't cleco the skins all the way down to the flanges, because you're not going to be able to get your hand in there to rivet along the flange of the little spar in that little airfoil kit. And much like that, it was kind of the case here. The inspar ribs have a curve to them that then the skins pull back closer together and it narrows as you get to the top. And so rather than clecoing the ribs and the skins together all the way up the entire length of the flanges there of those inspar ribs, we only clecoed about halfway up. And so that left the top part of the skin loose and able to kind of move it a little bit and have a little bit more room to get your hand in there with the bucking bar, with the rivet gauge while you're trying to do everything, especially there towards the inboard side where now you've got the two stringer assemblies on either side of you. It gets even more narrow. It is a bit of a tight fit here, and I got a little video just kind of trying to show you. So getting my hand in here is not the problem. It gets tricky, like if you were to try and turn it, because you can see here, like even my little hand's getting stuck. So might be good to have somebody with small hands who can get in here and help you out with that, because that's just really tiny. And I would not cleco all the way to the top skins, because you can see it's just really, I mean, look at that, really narrow. And having the skins here, like we've got where they're loose, it just gives you a little bit extra room when you're trying to get in there. So just what we found. You use different length rivets across the spar flanges with the different spar caps and everything that you've got there. You have to use different lengths to get around everything that's part of that front spar assembly. And so just to make sure we didn't make any mistakes, I went ahead and just wrote on the skins, marking, okay, here's where we stop and we switch to 3 4.5s, and here's where you switch to 3 5s, whatever it was. Just wrote it on the skin there instead of trying to remember or count or something. It just seemed easier. Just write. It's going to come off. We had the vinyl on there still, so just right there on the side where it is you need to use each different size rivet just to help prevent making a boo-boo. You can see, again, trying to get your hand in there with the bucking bar or with the rivet gauge just got a little bit tricky, and yes, it might be helpful to have somebody with some smaller hands that could easily fit in there. It worked, it's fine, it's just a bit of a tight squeeze, so if you know that you've got big hands and they're not going to fit in there, try and find somebody with small hands who you can convince to help you out when you're doing this today. But with the 8 hours minus the 1 hour we had to spend trying to figure out how to rivet those inboard ribs to the spar, we got a lot done. And so we got the nose ribs all riveted in, put the spar assembly in there, got the ribs for the inspar ribs all riveted to the spar web, got the rest of it clecoed there, and we ended up riveting all of the rivets there that connect the spar flange to the skins on the top half there of the horizontal stabilizer. So it was really a productive day, and again, that setup that we have with the scaffolding, that was so helpful. It didn't quite span the entire width of the horizontal stabilizer. It just wasn't that long, but we just set it up so it worked really well for one half, and then when we moved to the other half of the horizontal stabilizer, we just picked it up and shimmied it over and moved it to where we needed it to make it work for that other half. But having it where, again, like Tyler could sit on it to rivet, and then I could stand on it to reach in, it just worked out really well. This isn't like an ad for this particular ladder system, but I'm sure there's some other way you could set up some sort of similar scaffolding, but it just was really nice instead of perhaps if like I had like a ladder having to keep moving up and down, and then Tyler's got, you know, a stool trying to move it around, having something where we were both being able to use the same bit and just shimmy down a little at a time as we needed to, it worked out really nicely. Thank you again to all my subscribers out there. I'm really excited that I've hit 1,000. I can't believe it. It's really cool and it's exciting, and I'm glad to know that you guys are enjoying the videos, and hopefully you're all finding them really helpful. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this one. If you did, please be sure to give me a thumbs up, and make sure to subscribe to my channel if you're not among those 1,000 people who've already done so.